Pastor Roy Gearhart from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. When I was a kid, I grew up near the west branch of the Susquehanna River. In fact, very close to the source of that river. And when I was a kid, that river was horribly polluted. There were a lot of coal mining in the area, mostly strip mines. Many of those old mines were just, open cuts in the side of a hill that were never even filled back in. And runoff from those polluted a lot of springs and streams, and ultimately the river was sulfur runoff, and it was so toxic that really nothing could live in the river. It just had no fish in it or anything like that. In fact, it was so badly polluted that it didn't look like water. It looked like yellow milk. And I was grateful whenever I was about 10, 12 years old that there was a significant effort put into cleaning up the river, reclaiming a lot of old mines, cutting off those careless leftovers that were allowing runoff and poisoning those waters. And ultimately, it was successful. I mean, the west branch of the Susquehanna now in that region is really a beautiful river, supports a lot of variety of fish and wildlife, and is just one of those really wonderful success stories. That whole thing made me really aware of how much we can impact our environment around us, that we can either do a great deal of damage or we can do a great deal positively to manage it. And that affects the environment, the animals and fish, the whole ecosystem is affected by that. Now, that may not seem like it's much of a spiritual issue, but it really is. As we've been looking at the beginning and our beginning as human beings, we realize that once God created all of the world, that Genesis chapter 1 tells us that he created human beings and said that he was creating us in his image. And with that, we were empowered to have authority and rule over all of the earth. God put us at the top of the food chain. He put us in charge in a way that he said, go out there and rule over the earth. And in many cases, we have taken that to heart in ways that we have really exploited selfishly. Over the years, you can see how we as human beings have been reckless and careless in how we have ruled over this earth. One translation expresses that command and that instruction a little bit differently, and it did so in a way that I think is absolutely spot on. Instead of just emphasizing that we have authority, that we have power over, that we have dominion in the world, it said we have a responsibility, that God made us so that we could take responsibility for the world. I believe that any time that we are put in a leadership role, in any situation, that should never translate to simply a self-serving, selfish kind of end. Instead, it becomes a responsibility. If you're in leadership, you're responsible for those people that you have direction over. And so when God put us in a place of authority in the world, it really was a great responsibility that was put on us. And the fact is, it's connected to being made in the image of God. That means then that how we engage with life in this world, both with each other and with our environment, has to do then with reflecting the image of God. And so that we can either live our lives very selfishly and destructively in all of our relationships with human beings, with animals, with our environment around us, or we can live our lives as people who really express the image of God in grace, in creativity, in love, and in honor. And when we do that, man, we live a life that is blessed. In fact, one of the things that's impacted me and others as we've looked at these scriptures is just how amazingly generous God has been with us. That we see a world in which he has generously supplied sufficient resources to bless us and to enable us to live lives that are full and complete. But many times that hasn't seemed to be enough. But instead, selfishly, we have become consumers that use everyone and everything around us. That's not the God-honoring way to live our lives. And so we're realizing that how greatly God has empowered us to live our lives full of grace, reflecting His glory. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever He takes you.